Welcome back to Into the Paradox, folks. Today, we're journeying to a place where the wild truly lives up to its name, a land of immense beauty and even bigger mysteries, Alaska. And with us, to guide us through the shadowy forests and icy peaks, is renowned researcher Amber Rice. Amber, thank you so much for being here.
Peter, it's absolutely my pleasure. I'm always excited to talk about the last frontier and what it might be hiding. It's a truly fascinating place.
Fascinating is an understatement. When people think Bigfoot, they often picture the Pacific Northwest, maybe California or parts of Canada. But Alaska, that just feels different. It feels like the perfect backdrop for something so grand and so elusive. What makes Alaska such a compelling location for Sasquatch researchers?
You hit the nail on the head, Peter. Alaska is different. It's got an immense untouched wilderness that dwarfs almost anything else in North America. We're talking millions of acres of dense forests, mountain ranges, vast tundra, and incredibly remote coastlines. This isn't just a place for an animal to hide, it's a place for entire populations to exist without ever coming into contact with humans. The sheer scale of it is staggering.
So it's less about a high concentration of sightings and more about the sheer potential for undiscovered populations due to the landscape?
Exactly. While we do have a good number of reports, and some really compelling ones, the primary draw for researchers, and frankly, the reason it's so difficult to definitively prove anything, is that unparalleled remoteness. Think about it: an animal that is highly intelligent, adapted to its environment, and naturally shy could thrive there. The ecosystem supports it too. Abundant salmon runs, moose, caribou, berries in the summer. There's a rich food source for a large omnivorous primate.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, we're talking about an ecosystem robust enough to support grizzly bears and polar bears, so why not another large mammal, even one we haven't officially categorized? Let's dive into some of the actual reports. What kind of sightings or evidence do we typically see coming out of Alaska, according to the BFRO database, for instance?
The BFRO database for Alaska is fascinating because it reflects the environment. We see a good mix of Class A and Class B reports. Class A, of course, being clear visual sightings, and Class B includes things like track finds, vocalizations, tree breaks, or other indirect evidence. What stands out to me in Alaska is the consistent reporting of incredibly large footprints, often larger than what you might typically hear from the Pacific Northwest, suggesting potentially larger individuals or perhaps more dense musculature to handle the extreme environment.
Larger, wow. So not just a Bigfoot, but a really big foot.
Precisely, and the vocalizations are another key piece. Howls and screams, sometimes described as unlike any known animal. There's a particular report from southeast Alaska, near Juneau, where a couple heard a series of incredibly loud guttural roars that made the hair stand up on their necks. They were experienced outdoorsmen, familiar with bears, and they were emphatic this was not a bear.
That's chilling. The idea of something making a sound that even seasoned Alaskans can't identify. It adds a whole new layer to the mystery. Are there any particular regions in Alaska that seem to be more active in terms of sightings?
The Kenai Peninsula definitely stands out. It's relatively more accessible than some other parts, with a decent amount of human activity but still vast stretches of wilderness. We see reports from areas around Anchorage, Juneau, and Ketchikan too, particularly in the dense coastal forests. These are often in areas where people are hunting, fishing, or working in remote logging camps. They're usually people who spend a lot of time outdoors and know their local wildlife.
So we're not talking about tourists who saw a distant bear and got spooked. These are people with legitimate outdoor experience.
Absolutely, that's crucial for validating these reports. When a trapper or a hunting guide, someone who knows the forest inside and out, tells you they saw something that defies explanation, you listen. They're not prone to exaggeration, they're usually very pragmatic individuals. One report from a fisherman in a remote bay in southeast Alaska described seeing a large, dark bipedal figure standing by the water's edge, watching him. He initially thought it was a bear, but it stood upright for too long, too calmly, and then just melted back into the dense undergrowth silently.
The melting into the undergrowth part is a common thread in so many Sasquatch encounters, isn't it? That incredible ability to move silently and quickly despite their apparent size.
It is, and in Alaska, with the thick moss, dense spruce forests, and uneven terrain, that ability would be even more amplified. These creatures, if they exist, would be perfectly adapted to that environment, making them incredibly difficult to track or observe for any sustained period.
What about the climate? Alaska has brutal winters. How would a creature like Bigfoot survive the extreme cold and the months of near total darkness?
That's a fantastic question, and it's something we consider seriously. A large hominid would need significant insulation. We're talking thick fur, a robust metabolism, and potentially behavioral adaptations like denning or migrating. Some researchers speculate they could move to lower elevations or coastal areas during the harshest periods. Also, their presumed size would mean a lower surface area to volume ratio, helping them retain heat. Think about how well bears handle the cold, or even large ungulates like moose. They have adapted. A Sasquatch would need similar or even more efficient adaptations.
So it's not an insurmountable obstacle, just another layer of adaptation we'd expect. And culturally, are there any traditional stories from Alaskan native communities that align with the Bigfoot phenomenon?
Absolutely, and this is a really important aspect of the Alaskan story. Many indigenous cultures across North America have stories of hairy men or forest giants. In Alaska, we hear tales of the hairy man, or sometimes, though distinct, the Kushtaka among the Tlingit people, shape-shifting otter men who can lure people to their doom. While Kushtaka lore is a bit different, often more supernatural, the hairy man narratives frequently describe a large, upright, ape-like creature. These stories have been passed down for generations, predating modern Bigfoot sightings, giving a deep cultural root to the phenomenon.
That's incredible when you consider that these oral traditions go back centuries. It lends a certain weight to the possibility, doesn't it? It's not just a modern invention. So, as a researcher, what are the biggest challenges you face specifically when looking for evidence in Alaska?
Oh, the challenges are immense, Peter. First, the sheer scale we talked about. Covering ground is incredibly difficult. You're often relying on bush planes, boats, or extended treks into truly wild country. Logistics are a nightmare and expensive. Second, the weather is relentless. Rain, snow, extreme cold, high winds, it can destroy evidence like tracks quickly. Third, the wildlife. There are large predators everywhere. You're not just looking for Bigfoot, you're also constantly aware of grizzlies, black bears, wolves. Misidentification is always a concern, though as we discussed, experienced people usually know the difference.
I can only imagine trying to conduct an investigation when you're also worried about becoming dinner for a grizzly. That adds a whole other level of do I really want to follow that track?
Exactly. Safety is paramount. You need to be well prepared, well equipped, and extremely cautious. And then there's the remoteness of the witnesses themselves. Sometimes getting follow-up details from someone who lives in a tiny village, accessible only by air or sea, can be a challenge. But despite all of that, the passion remains.
What drives that passion, Amber? What makes it all worth it, given the difficulties, the skepticism, and the sheer physical demands?
It's the allure of the unknown, isn't it? The possibility that in this modern world, with all our technology, there could still be a large, undiscovered primate roaming the wilderness. And in Alaska, that possibility feels not just plausible, but almost inevitable. Every time I hear a credible report, every time I see a potential piece of evidence, it fuels that fire. It's the thrill of discovery, the idea that we might be on the cusp of rewriting our understanding of the natural world. Plus, personally, I just love being out in that kind of wilderness. It's humbling.
Humbling indeed, and the thought of what else could be out there undiscovered just adds to that sense of wonder. Are there any particular stories or pieces of evidence from Alaska that really stick with you that you feel are particularly compelling?
There are quite a few. One that always comes to mind is a series of reports from the Ketchikan area, a remote community where a family repeatedly experienced something large moving around their property at night, leaving huge footprints and making aggressive knocks on their cabin. What made it so compelling was the consistency across different family members, the detailed descriptions, and the sense of genuine fear they conveyed. It wasn't a one-off sighting, it was an ongoing presence that seemed to be observing them.
An ongoing presence, that's a whole different level of interaction than a fleeting glimpse. That must have been terrifying for them, and it points to a creature that's not just passing through but potentially establishing territory or at least a regular range in proximity to humans.
Precisely. It suggests a level of intelligence and perhaps even curiosity. These creatures aren't just animals reacting instinctively, they're showing signs of observation and patterned behavior. And in Alaska, with such vast areas, one could imagine a tribe or family unit having a range that encompasses human habitation without necessarily being detected often.
So it could be that the low population density of humans in Alaska ironically contributes to Bigfoot's ability to maintain a consistent presence without being formally discovered. Fewer eyes, fewer disruptions.
Exactly. They would have the ultimate advantage of terrain and camouflage. Their ability to blend into such a complex, rugged environment is their greatest defense. And if they are as intelligent as many eyewitness accounts suggest, they would learn to avoid human contact very effectively.
It's truly a captivating thought, the idea that such a magnificent, mysterious creature could be living alongside us in one of the planet's last truly wild places. Amber, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences. It's been an absolutely incredible journey into the heart of the Alaskan Bigfoot mystery.
Peter, it's been a genuine pleasure. I hope it encourages people to look at the wilderness with fresh eyes and maybe, just maybe, listen a little closer next time they're out there. You never know what's truly watching from the shadows.
Indeed, and that, my friends, is a perfect note to end on. Remember to keep an open mind, stay curious, and maybe wear some extra layers if you're venturing into the Alaskan wilds. This has been Into the Paradox. We'll catch you next time.